decisions you took in your life was to be born again. Because from that day, God also took an acute interest in you to protect you.
Lovely viewers, welcome to today's episode of the Solutions in Makarios with Apostle Mills-Odoi. Apostle, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanking the viewers as well for tuning in, and to Bishop Dag Mills for writing this book. That's been such an awesome blessing. And thank you for having me on your show once again.
It's a pleasure to have you on actually to teach us. We've been learning a lot this season on the pitfalls of pride and how you can avoid pride, and the fact that there's a responsibility on us to also sit down and assess ourselves so that we don't fall prey to pride.
Like the Bible says, examine yourselves. Yes.
So we are very grateful that you
Thank you very much. It's my honor. It's my honor.
We're continuing from our
Yes.
book. We've been learning a lot of case studies of people who've been proud, and none of them have ended well.
Yes. Colossians chapter 2 verse 18 in the New King James Version. Let no one cheat you of your reward, taking delight in false humility and worship of angels, intruding into those things which he has not seen, vainly puffed up in his fleshly mind. Colossians chapter 2 verse 18. Today we want to look at what it means to be puffed up like Korah. Korah was one of the leaders in the congregation who felt that he had the right, he had enough knowledge to correct Moses. You see, once again, you look at the fruits, you look at what happened, you look at his end, and then you see whether he was right or wrong. In every situation, you could argue for and against, but then when you see the end result, then you see who was right and who was wrong. Numbers 16, 1-3. Now Korah, the son of Isbah, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, Dathan, Abiram, son of Eliab, and they rose up, sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up against Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. So you see these three people led by Korah, because there's always a leader. There was Korah, then there was Dathan, and then there was Abiram. You see, and you see that they rose up against, what I asked Moses was that they stood up. It's a way of challenging Moses. Now remember that the Bible says that Moses was the meekest man in all the earth. And they rose up with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes. Remember that when Absalom also rose up with 250 princes, and they gathered themselves against Moses and against Aaron and said, ye take too much upon yourselves, seeing that all the congregation are holy. Every one of them. Now, are you sure that everyone is holy? So you see that when people rebel, they say things like, who does he think he is? We are all men of God. Who is a man of God? The Spirit of God is also with us. The Spirit of God is also up to today. On social media, people say that, why do you call him your father? Then why do you call him your father? It's another way of saying that we are all equal. Why is he being lifted up? Why does he think that he's above anybody? We are all fathers. We are all equal. But by their fruit you shall know them. You say, why do you call him a father? But what do you have to show? What do you have to show? The fact that you can even be dismissed is a sign that you are nothing. And we are all nothing. Yes, you take too much of it. We are all holy, every one of the congregation, and the Lord is among them. Are you sure the Lord is among them? But is it not this same God who said, I'll visit you in 3 days? And then he says, sanctify yourself. And the Bible says, and the Lord came in the smoke upon Mount Sinai. It means that God was not among them. You see, The thing about rebels is that they lie a lot, they exaggerate a lot, they create and paint and present a picture that is absolutely as far from the truth as the east is from the west. So as they are saying that they are all holy, it is not true. The Lord is among them. The Lord is not among them. And so wherefore lift ye up yourself about the congregation of the Lord. He has not lifted up himself. Remember at the beginning that he didn't even want to go.
Yes.
It's the Lord who commanded Moses before he went. And that's even how come Aaron came in the picture. Because Moses didn't want to lift up himself. It's the Lord who had lifted him. Korah was a man of repute in the church and in the society. And that's why you see that people say that when they become rebels and are castled another day, I was this, I was this, I was this. Look, it is nothing new. It will be difficult for you to rebel unless you are a man of repute. The number one and the first rebel was the one of greatest repute, Lucifer. So being a man of repute doesn't make you right. And remember that Lucifer was there from the beginning. It didn't make the fact that he rebelled make God wrong. That if Lucifer was bad, then why did God keep him for so long? It is Lucifer who was good until iniquity was found in him. And so the fact that somebody has been around for a long time doesn't mean that he's good. Doesn't mean that he's good. The fact that you have had a car for a long time doesn't mean it is a good car. It just means that you have tolerated the car for a long time. That's just what it is. Korah thought he was a big man. There are people who feel that they must be listened to because of who they are in the worldly society. And in today's social media world, it's like the fact that you have a following means that you are great. Like 2 days ago, I saw somebody make a comment about another rebel, and he said, "Oh, the fact that his followership has grown from 6,000 to 9.7 thousand means that he's making an impact and people are following him."
Necessarily.
No, but people, one day I met a young man and we were talking about social media. They said, "Oh, but Facebook is a place to go to when you are bored." And oh no, it's true. And we're not talking about anything in particular. You said, "Oh, but Facebook," because he was saying that the younger generation they use Twitter and this and all that. Oh, but Facebook. Oh, but as for Facebook, it's where you go when you are bored and you are looking like to while away the time and entertain yourself.
It's true.
So the fact that you've gotten a large following, it means you are more of an entertainer. Yeah, you're more of an entertainer than somebody who is making an impact. But see, this is what he's saying here that Korah thought was the man of reputation because he was able to marshal 250 men to follow him. And Bishop says here, thank God for all your credentials, but none of these makes you qualified to tell the pastor what to do. God will lead his servants by his Holy Spirit, and the church is led by the Holy Spirit who speaks through his chosen men. Can you believe now? Think about it. How do you think the other 11 disciples saw Jesus when he called Peter Satan? Think about it. Have you ever thought about it? No, you think about it. All the disciples were there. They've seen Peter from the beginning be like Jesus' right hand man, so to speak. This is the same Peter he took on the Mount of Transfiguration. This is the same Peter that he, the same Jesus, put the fishes in his net. This is the same Peter who he called to walk on water. No. This is the same Peter. No. You think about it. This is the same Peter who he healed his mother-in-law. He went to his house. Peter, in a sense, was like the greatest of the apostles that he, Jesus, had lifted up. Now he, Jesus, is calling Peter Satan. How do you think the rest of the disciples saw it?
There's something wrong with him.
Yes, so they had to choose between Jesus and Peter. You think about it. How can Jesus call Peter Satan? How can Jesus? No. I'm sure there was a discussion among the disciples that what was going on? Jesus, Peter, Satan, really? And you just told us that upon this rock I'll build my church. It happened just after it. So I'm sure the disciples may have seen Jesus as some way. And probably wrong that Peter cannot be Satan.
But if you have this relationship with him,
No, and Peter was not a stranger to them. Peter was their leader. How that Jesus called their leader Satan? But Jesus was right. You see, you will learn with time that the leader is right. It's just a matter of time, and you learn that the leader is right. And that is not everything the leader knows that he says. And the fact that he has not said why he's saying he's Satan doesn't mean he's wrong. It just means sometimes that he's trying to cover Peter's deficiencies because of Peter's future ministry, so that the other disciples can receive him as their leader after he, Jesus, is gone.
Reminds me, I think when we first started learning this book, you made a statement that he's the head because he sees everything. When you are subordinate, you only
Because
see
he's
that.
higher.
Yes.
And the higher he is, the more he can see the truth of everything going on. And the lower you are, the lower your vision is. That's why telecom masts are put high. That's why antennas are put high. That's why satellites are in space and not on Earth. Because the higher you are, the more access you have to information and truth. And that's why God Himself is in the highest heavens. Hmm. Number two, Korah was puffed up because he tried to correct a spiritual authority. Proverbs 30 said, accuse not a servant unto his master, lest the master curse you and you be found guilty. Spiritual authorities like pastors, priests, and bishops are servants of God, and their master is Jesus Christ. They are not ordinary people. It is wisdom not to accuse these servants to their Lord. You can easily have a curse coming upon your life. Servants of the Lord are called by God, set aside, and appointed by the Lord. They are also human beings and do make many mistakes. Anyone who says that the pastor does not make mistakes does not understand the ministry. Those of us who are ministers are fraught with weaknesses, sins, and mistakes. We are actually called and appointed by God with that in mind. You see, Hebrews 5 1 and 2. Look at it. For every high priest taken from among men is appointed on behalf of men by God in things pertaining to God, in order to offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, so that he can deal gently with the ignorant and the misguided. The Bible says that since he himself also is beset with weaknesses, that he may offer sacrifices first for his own sins. So you see, like Bishop Dag, he was not saying God calls the priest with their mind that he's not perfect. But if he were perfect, he would not be a good high priest. That's why even Jesus had to be made in human form so that he would understand. The Bible said in Hebrew that he may make him perfect, who was the captain of our salvation. You see, it's like Jesus is made perfect by coming in human flesh. For he was in all points tempted like us. We are, but the Bible says that God does not sin, neither is he tempted with sin. That's why Jesus had to be made in human form, so that as a human being, he will be tempted. God cannot be tempted. It's a human being who is tempted. So Jesus came as a human being that he will be tempted. So that when we are going through a temptation, he will understand us. So when a priest also go through the same temptation, it's like he can understand his people. So that as he's exposed to their sins, he himself will know how it feels like, and he can be gentle with them. As you can see, Jesus was gentle with sin. He told this one, don't sin no more. He told Zacchaeus. He didn't even tell him that he was a cheater. They just went to eat with him. And Zacchaeus was convicted, and Zacchaeus corrected himself. So you can see that the reason for the high priest sins is actually because of the sins of the congregation. Yet the congregation accuses the pastor of sin, which he does or he is or is chosen because of their own sins.
We tend to put priests on a very high pedestal as though they are God.
They are God,
They can't do
and they should behave like God.
Yes, that's true.
They should, and there is no room given to the priest to be human. He must be superhuman. And unfortunately for him, because he preaches the word of God, which is perfect, The assumption is that how can you say it when you yourself don't do? I mean, like once in a while, when let's say I'll jump the traffic lights and the policeman arrests me, and I say that, oh, I'm a priest, this, that, that. The first thing they say is that you should be correcting people from the pulpit and telling them not to jump red lights. And I tell them it's true. So from today, I'll make sure I'll tell my congregation not to jump red lights. You see, but the point is, being a priest does not prevent you or absolve you from also committing faults. A, a priest also jumps a red light because he's human and will make a mistake like everybody else. When Elijah was the prophet and the brook Kidron dried up for the city, it also dried up for Elijah. There was nothing like the brook dried up for everybody, but for Elijah, the river still flowed. There's nothing like that. It is so, dear church members, it is not, see, I mean, okay, now the next question is it good for a pastor to go and die?
No.
Yeah, so if a pastor says he's going to die, and his church member comes to tell him that, oh, I don't agree with you that you should go and kill yourself. What wrong has the church member done? Has he not rather done something good? You see, this goes to show that whether you think that the pastor is right or wrong, it's not your business, it's not your place, and you are likely to be wrong. Trying to correct him in what you think is right. Because now you go to correct the man who says he's going to kill himself. Actually, you are being used by Satan. So you leave him to God. That's what the Bible says. Who art thou that judges another man's servant? To his own master, he stands or falls, and God is able to make him to stand. It's not your duty to force him to stand. Like I saw a character on Facebook saying that I'm calling upon Bishop that he was not to revise his books. It's not your place. You think the books are rubbish? Don't read it. It's like me coming to say that the newspaper today is wrong. Don't buy it.
Freedom of choice.
Freedom of choice. But it's an evil mind and an evil heart that goes to correct the ruler. You see, now, were there times when the rulers were corrected? Yes. But you see that those who are in the place of correction, they do it in a way that you find out that the person being corrected accepts it. Because that person is of a spiritual rank that makes it of merit that he had the authority, the power, and the spirit of God to correct. But you cannot come and say, I am bitter, I'm offended, and I'm angry. And out of the spirit of bitterness, anger, and offense, I'm coming to correct you. It will make even the source and the pool out of which, and the stream and the river out of which the correction is coming bitter. So that, like Peter, we can now only turn to you and say, Satan. Yes. I mean, and I won't go into detail, but there have been situations where, you see, there's a difference between bringing a suggestion and correction. I mean, there are two different things. You can bring a suggestion, you can bring advice, you can make an or present an opinion, and you must, it is the right thing to do. But that's different from correction. So when you hear people say that you cannot even speak to him, they have mixed the issues. They are substituting advice for correction. They are substituting presenting an opinion. Every good leader, you can give him an opinion, offer a suggestion, give advice.
You didn't say that maybe when you're doing correction is because you've told yourself that the leader is wrong and you are right.
Yes.
But when you're giving an
No,
opinion,
if I say 2 plus 2 is equal to 6, and you say no, you are only saying that it's because you have identified it. But I tell you, based on which mathematician you meet, they can prove to you that 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. Based on his level of mathematical acumen, he will prove to you. by writing formula that 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. That is not in every instance where 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. Someone else will come and prove to you that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1. Empirically, by doing some equations, 1 plus 1 is equal to 1 times 3, blah, 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 and will show you that therefore 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and you give him 100%. Another one too can 1 plus 1 is equal to 3. Also work out a formula. 1 plus 1, so your opinion doesn't matter. Opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion only depends on your point of view. And you didn't call the man. You joined his church. It cannot be that you have joined his church and God will use you to bring correction. He won't. Who are you? I'll show you. Is it not Moses who said you should not marry a non-Israelite? He said, God said, don't marry from among the nations. Marry from within the tribe of Israel. Yes or no?
Yes.
How come that Moses is going to marry an Ethiopian woman? And when when Aaron and Miriam grumbled about it, Miriam is struck with leprosy for saying that Moses has broken the law. But Moses has broken the law. But you see, the judge is God. Moses' judge is God, not you.
With this, the example you gave, I don't recall who told me exactly, but she was pointing out, the person pointing out that the correction of Miriam's correction of Moses and the consequence, both Miriam and Aaron, the consequences of both of them, that even though Aaron was also part of that correction, because he was a priest
And was anointed.
yes, he was spared.
Because God also doesn't touch his anointed.
It was such an interesting thing to know that she didn't have the, well, like I say, she didn't have the authority, or she wasn't mandated or empowered to have corrected Moses on that issue.
Yes.
Yeah, because she did that and she didn't have God's backing.
Yes.
She was struck with leprosy.
Yes.
Aaron was
The
was
same.
spared. Yeah, the same thing, but
He wasn't spared, he was anointed.
yes, anointed. So
But the anointed priest, and God also doesn't touch his anointed.
when he took off he was finally that was done and he took off the robe and he was being handed over to another person. Then his punishment
Yes.
came.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
No. You should be careful. You see, I tell people that when you see an anointed person and you are angry with them, you see, even like this morning, I was watching something. I've forgotten exactly what it was. It was about a pastor. I think he was saying something. You see, even now, it was just a few hours ago, but I've even forgotten who wrote. At a point, I said, Toss, you know something? This thing you're watching is none of your business. Oh. By the time you see you are going to say something against a pastor somewhere, you don't know him, he doesn't know you. Whatever he's saying, it doesn't affect you. Just don't watch it. Just leave it. It's none of your business. But now you go to judge another man's servant. Now you go to the problem for yourself. I've even forgotten who it was. But you know, this thing the man is saying, it's none of your business. It's not your money. It's not your. You attend his church. He has not done anything to you. Don't concern yourself with this. It's true. And most of the time, the thing that the people will create is none of our business. Really. Serve your God. Look at Korah. Where would you have been without Moses? You would have been in Egypt, building a pyramid, carrying a stone. Who do you think you are? And so that you see that look, the most fruitless people are those who attack ministers the most. I'm telling you. You know, recently I saw a little clip from Bishop Oyedepo. You know, and he was saying, and he made a comment. He said, these days, you see young ministers criticizing fathers and assuming they are what they have not even started. No, it struck me that phrase that they're assuming that they are something that they have not even started. Then he gave an example. He said he has never said a negative word against. He mentioned two churches, the Deeper Life and another church, Trem. the Redeemed Evangelical Ministry, some big church in Nigeria. Then he said one day, one of his close, I don't know if his administrator or somebody close to him, told him a dream that she had had. That in the dream she saw the head pastor of Trem. That's a huge church, like his church. I think she was sick, and in the dream she saw the head pastor of Trem praying for her, and she got healed. Bishop Oyedepo said when the lady told him, he just called his driver, his personal driver, wrote a note for his driver, and told the driver to take his administrator or whoever she was to the head pastor of church. And then he wrote on the note that, "Good morning, sir. Please, I humbly come before you. Please, I'll be grateful if you can make time to pray for my daughter who saw you in a dream," and give the note to, because I think the train pastor knows his driver in his car. So he sent his administrator and his personal driver with a personal note to the head of train to pray for it. People of rank, people of authority, they don't fight each other. They complement each other. They know that each of us is called of God, and each of us, we should stand shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, and build up the kingdom. But those who think they are what they have not started, they gain their credibility by attacking those above them, thinking that by putting somebody's candle off, their candle will shine brighter. It's, I mean, it's just quixotic. And they usually are and then end up as men of straw. Thinking that a social media following makes you substantial. How many of your social media followers will come for your birthday party? Honestly. You see, but in the you the thing about social media is that it makes you what you are not. And because you live for views and likes and clicks, you think you are important. But like the young man told me, "Oh, Facebook is the place we go when we are bored and we have nothing to do." Yet you think that because people are watching you, you are famous and making an impact. People see you as a comic, something to while away the time when they have nothing to do. Like Bishop Oyedepo said, deceived into thinking you are what you have not started. It's like you are a lawyer. It's like somebody thinking he's a top lawyer when he's here to go to the law school.
Very funny situation.
Well, let's continue. The thing about Korah and people who criticize it, that God's response is quite devastating when it eventually comes. But you see, when all these things were going on, God had not responded. You see, and I tell people that if you look at the temptation of Jesus, the Bible says that, and Satan taketh Jesus to the top of a mountain, to the edge of the cliff, and says, "If you are the Son, throw yourself down." You see, there are some temptations that will not come unless you are a son. And the way of destruction of a son is always and only self-destruction. He said, "You throw yourself down." If Satan could throw Jesus down, he would have thrown him down. The Bible says that a son abideth forever. A son can never be thrown away from the house. He has to leave the house himself. So Satan instigates him to leave the house. If you are a son, throw yourself down.
You will end up doing it.
It's self-destruction. Satan cannot destroy a son. It's a son who can destroy himself. That if you are a son, you throw yourself down. That's why it's the prodigal son who left the house. He was not sacked. Because a son abideth forever. So he can't be sacked. Nobody can sack a son. He can sack himself. And Satan instigates sons to sack themselves. Absalom was never sacked from the palace. He ran away from the palace. In all the instances. Jesus as a son was sent from heaven. He wasn't sacked. He was sent. So he go return. Yeah, he wasn't sacked. He was sent. But Lucifer was not a son. He was a creation. It's different. Jesus was the son. Lucifer was a creation, a work of creation, an angel. So he was sacked. A son cannot be sacked. unless he decides to go. Because you can even be a son. When your father has sacked you, you won't go. A father cannot beat you out of it. He can't. In his anger, he say, leave my house, leave my house. But if you leave, he can't throw you out. He can't. It's a son who can throw himself down. And that's how you see that all people who rebel is they who rebel. It is always an act of rebellion. It's always an act of indiscipline. It's always a reactionary event that makes sons walk out. They are never sad. When they are even sad, let's say take a church setting, it will only be an administrative decision, not a spiritual decision. But sonship is a spiritual relationship, not an administrative relationship. So the fact that you let an administrative relationship trump over your spiritual relationship is a sign that you are not a son, you are a worker, an employer, an employee. Because you must understand the different lines of relationship. That there's the administrative line and then the spiritual line. And the fact that you even know the administrative line doesn't mean there's no spiritual line anymore. But sometimes in our anger, we blur the lines and then we lose both. We put both together and lose it.
It's interesting. The sun is permanent. You are seeing
Yes.
that line is not broken.
I can give an example. One day I had a treasurer in my church many years ago, and she was my daughter. And one day I was not happy with the way she was. They were a team, but I don't know what she did. And then I dismissed her from being a treasurer. You won't believe it. That week, I dismissed her from being a treasurer. She was made assistant bank manager in her bank. And I said, God is wonderful. That somebody who I feel is not even qualified to count money in a small church. I mean, from now, even though I dismissed her administratively, it never affected our spiritual relationship for a second. And today she's probably even closer to me as a daughter than at that time. And we laugh over it. You see, you should be careful that you don't blur the lines. That there's an administrative relationship where the administrative thing should be done. It does not negate the spiritual relationship, which is more important than the administrative relationship, because it's out of the spiritual relationship that there can even be an administrative relationship. One is of the spirit and one is of the flesh, and the spirit always has to triumph over the flesh. So we need to mature.
But even with biological relations, if, for example, my parents had a company and I was an employee then, for whatever reason I'm sad, it won't change the fact that I'm a daughter.
It cannot change the fact. I mean, this is an excellent example. I mean, it would be quite infantile, quite bizarre, quite strange. I'm looking for words that because they sacked you from the shop, so you say you won't come home again, or you've got to change your name at the court because they said they will, nobody will find you to be a normal person if you take such a decision. That your father said don't come to the shop again, so now you are no longer his daughter. Nobody does that, but in the church it's done. You see, I'll never his son. I'm no longer, I renounce him as my father. No, it's a spiritual relationship that must be maintained because sons are forever. So you are still a son, and you've now become a rebellious son, but nevertheless still a son. Like even as Absalom was trying to kill David, David said, my own son. That one you can't change. He said, my own son. He didn't say that boy. He didn't say that soldier. He didn't say that prince. He said, my own son. That came out of my life. That it can never change. You can curse your father, insult your father, demonize your father. You are still a son. That cannot change. You carry. One day I saw some sons insulting their father on Facebook. Seriously, the one person to make a comment that even the way you are insulting your father shows you are his son. It was so many, even the way you are even insulting your father makes it clear that you are his son. Yes. And finally, Korah was puffed up because he fell from being a man of repute to being wiped out together with his family. You see, and this is what I'm saying. Numbers 16:29. Let's read it. Notice the words of Moses, Bishop Dag writes. After they challenged Moses, then Moses said, if these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men and they die, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth opens her mouth and swallows them up with all that appertains unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then they shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among their congregation. This was the end of Korah. Dathan. Sorry?
And the family members who did nothing except
No, yeah, but you see, that's the sad thing. There's a choice to make, and you should understand that the decisions you make will affect your families coming after you. It is sad. You see, by that says as a warning to us that we should not be puffed up like Korah. I mean, leave the man of God alone. It will be to your great advantage. Look, the only disciple, there were two disciples who betrayed Jesus, Judas and Peter. You know, and if I were Jesus, I'll be more hurt by Peter's betrayal than Judas's betrayal, because Judas said, I know this man so well that I can take you to him. I can even kiss him. Peter said, I don't know that man. He didn't even say, I don't know Jesus. He said, I don't know that man. He said, I don't know what you are talking about. He didn't say, I don't even know who. He called Jesus a what? He actually denied any connection with Jesus. Very serious. But Judas said, oh, Jesus, he and I are like this. Who was the one who betrayed Jesus? Is the one who told Jesus, you are lying. You say, I'll betray you, you are lying. So be careful. Leave the man of God. In your greatest anger, just walk away. Don't fight. It is not necessary. And I tell people that, that thing you are angry with him about, you may be right. But the problem is, as he finishes, you are going to kneel down and ask God for forgiveness. And the Bible says that if you confess your sins, he said, so what you are angry about that you can't forgive, God has forgiven him, he has moved on. Oh. Yeah. You think God will punish him? If he had done wrong, God will punish him already. God has forgiven his servant, and his servant has moved on. So let's be humble and submit. See, the Bible says, obey them that have the rule over you, but they watch for your souls, as they that might give accounts, that they may give account of you with joy and not with grief. For then, when your pastor is unhappy with you, that is unprofitable unto you. The Bible says, submit yourself to those who have spiritual authority over you. He said, look, obey the scribes and the Pharisees, for they sit in the seat of both. There's nowhere in the Bible that encourages rebellion against pastors. Jesus himself didn't demonstrate it. When they took it to the high priest, he went. He didn't go and fight there. He didn't talk. It's John the Baptist who went to accuse Herod of adultery and all this. But Jesus was quiet. He didn't say anything to them. He submitted himself to whatever they wanted to do to him. May we have the spirit of Christ. May we have the spirit of Christ. The pride that makes us feel lifted up to criticize authorities, fight pastors, is not from God. It's not from God. Bible says that the wisdom that comes from above, peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy, full of good fruits, and the seed of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
For coming on our show.
No, you see, it makes nonsense of all the fights. It makes nonsense of all the fights. See, the wisdom that comes from above is first peaceable, gentle. Are you gentle? Are you peaceful? Are you easy to be entreated? Are you full of mercy? Mercy, okay, your leader is wrong. Okay, it's true. You have idea he's wrong. Be merciful. Say, no, I won't be merciful. Okay, then that wisdom is not from above. And the Bible says that, but the wisdom from beneath is earthly, sensual, devilish. These are your options: earthly, sensual, devilish. Which did you choose? The wisdom from above or the wisdom from beneath?
It's your choice.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Apostle, for coming on our show for teaching us. Thank you, viewers, for staying with us. We've been treating the book Those Who Are Proud by Bishop Daniel Mills from the Makarios Library. You can get your copy by calling the number at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get it delivered to you wherever you are. Even if you're in Guinea, we'll get there. So thank you for staying with us. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the encouragement. You can stay with us as we continue on learning until we meet again next week. Have a blessed evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.